Hello there guys, it's me Unstable Voltage and welcome to this, the first episode in a brand new series of Europa Universalis IV. I guess there's no real point in me keeping you in suspense about what the nation I am playing is going to be, as you'll have probably already read it in the title. So let's go straight in, and in this Let's Play I am going to be playing through as Japan. Now there's been a lot of people that have suggested I should play as Japan, and I've wanted to play one of the Eastern powers for quite a while now, and decided that Japan was probably a good one to go with because they have quite an interesting start. Now if you look over here at Japan, you will see that the country is broken up into quite a lot of smaller nations, and this is what makes their start very interesting. So first of all, you'll notice you've got this one nation in the middle, this three-province nation, which is actually Japan itself. So it's these two provinces here, and also this, what's that, Usashi on the end here. So you've got three provinces, Kyoto, Mino, and Yoshishi, that make up Japan. So this empire here, or should I say this nation, this is the shogun. This is the shogun of Japan. And all of these other nations, these are all Japan's dynastic members. So these are basically all the daimyos, and Japan itself is the shogun. Now this is what makes the start for Japan very interesting to play. The shogun, who has the Japan tag, and that tag can move around. The shogun who has the Japan tag starts off with all of the daimyos as his vassals. Now this means that you don't actually have any CBs against them. You can't go to war with them, usually, but there is a way around that. So the only real way to integrate these guys is to diplomatically annex them. That's very time consuming and costs a lot of diplo points. Now as the shogun, it's your job to try and unify Japan. Once the shogun gets to 15 provinces, or 15 provinces in the Japanese region, you get a decision to hit the button and form Japan. Any of the daimyos that haven't been added to Japan at that point break away from vassalage and become an independent feudal monarchy. Now it is possible, if a daimyo gets big enough, if a daimyo manages to get up to 10 provinces, then the shogun gets a CB against them to take them down to size. On the other hand, you can actually play against the daimyos. Now, it doesn't really matter which of the daimyos you play, they're all more or less the same, except obviously some just have a single province and some are larger. Now, the thing with the daimyos is, even though they are all vassals of the same overlord, the daimyos all get a CB against their neighbour. Now, it's very, very complex playing as the daimyos, because you find there are a lot of complex relations, a lot of complex alliances between your neighbours, and very often you'll want to go to war with your neighbour, but you can't bring your allies in because your allies are also their allies, and you'll also find yourself getting involved in multiple wars. It's very, very messy playing as the daimyos. And the daimyos also get a CB against the shogun. A daimyo can actually attempt to overthrow the shogun and become the shogun. If a daimyo does that, then the daimyo actually gets the Japan tag themselves. It's also worth noting that once a daimyo and the shogun go to war with each other, the vassalage is permanently broken and they become independent. Now, playing as Japan, as the shogun itself, can usually be quite boring, because most of the way you're supposed to play it is just by diplo annexing. As I've said, that actually takes quite a bit of time, but there's a little trick you can do, and that's what we're going to be doing. So we are going to jump in and play as Japan right from the start of the game. We are using all of the DLC, all the way up to and including Common Sense. So let's go and jump in as Japan. Now, once we get in, I can explain a little bit about some of the issues that you actually have trying to form Japan as the shogun. So, the first thing that's worth noting, if we just quickly go in and have a look, you will see that, first of all, before anything else, we already have 11 of our 8 diplomatic relations. Now, we wouldn't normally have 8 anyway. We actually get a slight bonus for being the shogun. The shogunate gives us diplomatic relations +4 and an extra diplomat. So normally, a nation of this size would only be able to have 4 relations. We're actually allowed 8, but we've got 11. That's not too bad because these different daimos won't last for very long. If we don't take them over, somebody else will. So we are going to be losing Diplo points, and that's one of the reasons that it's also difficult to do these diplomatic annexations, because first of all, you start off over your Diplo limit, which means you are not making as many Diplo points as you should be. If you also look at the various different daimos, first of all, you don't have a 190 relationship with any of them at the start of the game, meaning you can't instantly start annexing. Not only that, but if we actually go and look under annex, we can't annex any of them until the 11th of November 1454, because they actually all start off as a vassal from the very beginning of the game, so you have to wait 10 years before you can start to annex them, which makes it a real pain. It's also worth noting that we do have a much higher force limit, even though we only have 3 provinces. Because we are actually an overlord to all these different vassals, we get vassal contribution towards our force limit, so we do get a much higher force limit. However, all of the daimyos actually get a 10% bonus to their army morale and 10% bonus combat ability, so you do have to be a little bit careful. Now, right at the start of the game, the only rivals we can set is Korea, who we will be mainly fighting against, but not really until we've formed Japan. And then after that, we'll probably end up rivaling Ming or being rivaled by Ming. There are a couple of little places here that aren't actually part of Japan proper. So, for example, if we look up here and we've got Ainu, which is actually a tribal nation, so we can take them over. And also down here we've got Okinawa, which is an independent animist tribal nation as well, so we can take those out. But we need to sort out Japan first. So we're not going to bother with any advisors right now because we can't afford it. We're hemorrhaging money, which is a problem we need to resolve. Diplomatic relations, like I said, that problem isn't going to be around for much longer. So let's look at the missions. Now, normally you will get at least 1 mission to incorporate a daimyo into our country, and this is Takada, which is normally this one. So it's the orange province that starts right next to us, where you... I'm assuming that's supposed to be Mount Fuji, although it's actually a little closer to the coast. Now, it's well worth taking that because you get diplomatic reputation +1. Now, all you need to do for this, I believe, is Takada does not exist, and that province is owned by Japan. It doesn't say that you have to integrate them diplomatically, it just says you have to own that province. Now, what you've also got to remember is when you are diplo annexing nations, that you will get that annex subject's -3 diplo relations penalty, which pretty much grinds your further diplo annexations to a halt until that goes away. We're going to take this mission anyway. We definitely want to try and grab Takada, and the reason for that is this province has a gold mine, and it'll give us some inflation, but it will really help bump our money up. So let's have a look at the money situation here. As you can see, we're losing 2.34 ducats per month, and that is really bad. Now, we have a relatively sizable army, but we are going to want to keep that. We don't want to get rid of our army. It's going to be very important to us. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go and get rid of these 2 castles. We already discussed in the last Let's Play that we did that the castles aren't necessarily all that useful. Now, yes, if you have enough castles, they do give you some yearly army tradition, which isn't fantastic for us. I mean, we start with 7.1 army tradition anyway, and even with the 2 castles, it's not going to go up by an awful lot. We don't start with a castle in the capital, so we don't have to worry about that. So that's instantly going to reduce our outgoings down to 0.34 ducats. Now, if we look over here, we'll see we've got 2 navies. One of them is made up of 3 lights. The other one is 6 transports and 2 heavies. So what we are going to do is we don't really need to have any of those right now. Transports might be useful later, but let's go ahead and save the money. We're going to get rid of those heavies. We are going to get rid of those transports. Now we're making money. We're also going to take our 3 lights. We'll tell them to go home at war, but they're going to go and protect trade in the Nippon trade node, which is our main trade node right down here. Now, in fact, starting off as Japan at the start of the game, it's the only trade node that you can reach I think this might be in reach. Yeah, we could go up here into the Hangzhou trade node, but unfortunately we can't sort of push any trade out in that direction. It goes away from us. We can't go and put any merchants upstream because we can't see it, and we're too far away to put anything in Jiren or Beijing. Now, normally you wouldn't collect from your home trade node because you collect there automatically, but putting a merchant in your home trade node at the start of the game will improve your income slightly. It'll give you a little bit of extra income. So now we're actually making money. Now, what we want to do here is actually start improving relations with a few of the daimyos. And we can get some royal marriages with them, and that's very important because I also believe right at the start Japan doesn't actually have an heir, and our shogun isn't particularly great, so we need to get an heir. So we will go and we will try and suck up to a few of these guys. So what we'll probably do is just go straight in and try and get some royal marriages, because the good thing with trying to get the royal marriages is it's an instant 25 positive relations for 0 effort. So we'll go and get some royal marriages in there. We're going to go ahead and unpause the game now. Now we've got 15 troops. There we go. We've got our royal marriages. We could start... Oh, we don't want to move you. We could start sucking up to some of these people, which we probably will do once we get the diplomats back. Now let's go and have a look at our force limit. Our force limit is actually 21. Now I'd certainly suggest going a little bit higher from the starting number. I wouldn't go too high though. What you've got to remember is that most of your force limit is your force limit contribution from vassals. Now once the daimyos start attacking each other and you start losing vassals, your force limit contribution from them will go down, and you'll suddenly find that you're over the force limit and you are paying a huge amount of money. Now you do have a relatively small starting manpower cap, so it's best to get a couple of extra soldiers on the battlefield before the fighting starts, and that will give you time to recover some of your manpower. Now we're actually losing a little bit of money right now because we haven't hit the end of the month, but as soon as we tick over to December, there we go, we are now making about a ducat a month. It's not fantastic, but it's certainly going to help out. So all we're going to do for the first part of the game, and we're going to just quickly go up to speed 2, is we need to just keep our eye on things, and we will start seeing that the daimyos start declaring war on one another. That is fairly normal. We should be able to go ahead now into these guys and start improving relations. It's certainly not a bad idea to improve relations with at least some of the stronger daimyos, and possibly some of the ones that are further away, because those are the ones that you are going to probably conquer later on. Now, the way that we are actually going to try and take over our vassals can be a little bit random, because it does very much depend on which vassals go to war with each other and in what order. So it's going to be a little bit complicated. We're going to make sure that we leave one of our diplomats free, because we need to wait for the fighting to start. The other good thing about taking over Takada here is that it will join up all of our provinces into one. So you do have to be very, very careful with the weight limits, the supply limits in the provinces, because some of them aren't very high. The supply limit here in our capital is 25, so that's okay. So we've got 17 troops there. That gives us 4 more before we reach our cap. I'm guessing we could possibly take 1 more, but I wouldn't really want to go much above that. We are of the Shinto religion. Basically, that's what gives us some extra morale of armies, but less tolerance of heathens. Unfortunately, Shinto is one of those religions in the game that doesn't really have any sort of unique mechanic, unfortunately. There's not an awful lot that we can do about it. We just get the passive bonus from it, so that is what we will deal with. Now, because we've got rid of our lot of ships, we do have a tiny bit of money. We could afford to get ourselves maybe 1 or 2 more light ships. Now, you do want to save up some money, because you will need to get some mercenaries, but we've also got a very good way of getting more money. And it's the same way that we're actually going to get ourselves some more land. So what we need to do is we need to start having a look at our neighbours and seeing when they're at war. So if we look at Takada here, Takada are actually currently at war against Hatakeyama, which are these guys, the green guys. So what we want to do is we want to take over Takada. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Takada and I'm going to say to them, enforce peace. Now, if we try and get them to enforce a peace and they don't do it, we can come in on the side of Hatakeyama. Now, currently, we can't enforce the peace between two junior partners. So these are junior partners in the war. We need to find out who the main people in the war are. So let's go and have a look and see if we can find that out. Going to have to go and look at the ledger for this one. So we want to have a look at relations, current wars. So Takada is a minor partner for Shiba. So we want to find Shiba, who are these guys up here. So we're going to go into Shiba and we're going to tell these guys to enforce peace. Now, they'll say no, but at least we can send the demand. So what will happen is we've got Shiba and Takada on the same side. We're going to the war leader, which is Shiba, and we are telling them to enforce their peace. We want them to stop warring. They're going to say no, and that's what we want. We want them to say no, because the moment they say no, we are in the war against them, and that will allow us to take Takada. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to send. So that will instantly put us at war. We are going to go and get ourselves a general. Now remember, we are the Chinese culture group, so our technology, sorry, the Chinese tech group, so our technology is 60% more expensive. So it does take a long time to save up, but we are going to go and get ourselves a general. I don't like making the ruler a general, especially because there is no air. So it's the stability hit if you die that is worse than anything. The good thing with this enforced peace method is you can still do it even if you're in a regency council. So at least it has that going for it. So let's go ahead and unpause. There we go. Those guys have said no. It's fully what we expected to happen. There's their army. We're going to move in over here. Hopefully they'll move in on top of us and we can wipe them out. We do have the much bigger army. They are locked. We did arrive first. We've rolled a 0 to whatever the first roll was and a 1 to an 8. And they rolled a 9. Not too great for us. Especially as we have such low force limits. That's where things are going to get problematic. So we want to make sure we go ahead and win this battle. Hopefully we'll get at least one decent roll before the end of the war here. So there we go, we've gone ahead and taken out that army. Now we're going to be reinforcing. Let's just move our army back into our home province. We'll go and sort of finish these guys off. In fact, someone is doing it for us. Now, what we want to do here is we want to get 100% war score against Takada. Now, they are going to get their province sieged out here, so that's not too bad. We're going to just sit around and let our manpower recover at the moment. We're not going to fight unless we have to. Unfortunately, we can't actually siege out Takada. We could chase these guys all the way back to their home province and siege that out. That's actually not a bad idea. At least we'd be able to get some war score directly against them for doing that. But our primary goal at the moment is actually trying to take Takada. So let's go up and see if we can deal with these guys. Now, you do have to be very, very careful taking provinces in this way. I mean, it's a good way to declare war against your vassals. The problem that you will have is if you take too many provinces, first of all, you're going to be using admin points to core instead of diplomatic points to annex. So you're going to have that issue. We can detach a siege from there and bring everyone else back because they don't actually have a proper fort there. But the problem you will have is if you start taking a lot of provinces, you're going to end up in a situation where you get a lot of rebellions, and that is where a problem starts to get caused. So we want to make sure that we get these provinces fully sieged out. I don't think these guys will break the siege. I don't think there are any enemy armies left now. Unfortunately, all these guys are sitting in the capital there, which is going to give me extra attrition, but that's not too bad. Let's just go and have a look and see, could we actually peace out directly with Takada? At the moment, we couldn't, because it is not controlled by my allies. Now, we actually have control over Sheba at the moment. Now, we should technically be the war leader. We are. So hopefully nobody else is going to be negotiating any peace, and we do actually occupy this province right now, which is good. You can stay there for the moment. You don't have anything to worry about. So what you've got to remember is if we were to take this province diplomatically, we would have to wait until at least 1454 before we could even start to diplomatically annex them. And we're only in 1445. We're not even 1 year through the game yet, and we already have their province. Now, there is one more province here that we haven't managed to take, which is the capital of these guys. But it looks like the rest of our army down there is going to be sorting that out. We could take these two provinces. I'm not terribly bothered about this one. But we could quite easily take 4 provinces here. So Takada is already willing to surrender. So what we're going to do is we're going to sue for peace with Takada. We're going to take their one and only province. They won't actually give it to us at the moment, which is very, very odd. Now, why will you not do that? Oh, well, we'll give it a little bit longer. We'll wait until we've got 100% war score over on the war leader. Let's just move in with our main army here, and we'll detach a siege and move the rest back out, just to avoid getting massive amounts of attrition. They're willing to peace out, but what I want to do is I want to take Takada. More important than anything for me at the moment, because that is the province I have a mission for. So we're waiting for Takada to be a little bit more willing to peace out. Now, what we could do if we wanted to, we could actually peace out with the war leader and demand Takada from them. But if we can actually take Takada directly from, well, take Kai directly from Takada, then at least that way we will be able to separate peace them out and then take more stuff from Sheba. So that's what we're going to try and do. We just need to wait for this province. Unfortunately, it has a fort, so it does take a little bit longer. The month has ticked over. It's worth keeping an eye on these guys. They may be willing to peace out at some point. Yep, still negative 12 reasons, mainly because they're ally, military strength, length of war. So as time goes on, the length of war will... I'm actually just going to tell our trade ships not to... Actually, the wrong button there. I don't want them to go home at war. I want them to continue protecting trade. There are no hostile ships out there at the moment, and at least this way we will stop losing money. So it would have been nice to finish this war before the end of the episode, but we're well over the 20-minute mark, so I'm going to end it here. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you will enjoy this new Let's Play of EU4 as Japan, and I'll see you guys on the next video. So until then, goodbye for now.